Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff, back with another sublimation tutorial. So if you have a furry best friend, dog or cat, I have a bunch of sublimation pet ideas for you today. I am a huge dog lover. I'm gonna throw a picture of our dog Gus up here on the screen just because he's so stinking cute. And I'm basically on a first name basis with all of the dogs in the neighborhood, even though I don't know their actual parents' names. And then I know a lot of you are probably cat people. I would probably like cats more if I wasn't so deeply allergic to them. But if you are a cat person, you should also find several projects here that will work for your furry friends. I have 6 projects for you today, which is a little bit bonkers, but there was just so much cool pet stuff and I wanted to do it all, so here we are. Because we have so many projects to get through today, I'm not gonna go into detail about how to print your actual sublimation transfers for these projects. I actually already have all of mine printed out, and I'm basically just going to show you how to apply them to these blanks. If you need more information about how to print your sublimation transfers, I'll go ahead and leave some resources in the description below. And because I know somebody is going to ask me, yes, sublimation projects are safe for your pets. They are safe for humans as well. Basically, that sublimation ink turns into a gas and then permanently bonds with your blank, so you don't need to worry that this is going to be dangerous for any of your pets. I do have a free file for you today. I have a bunch of paw print patterns, so you can use these on these types of projects. You can use them on whatever you would like. You can grab those in my craft library for free. If you don't already have the password, you can request it on that page and then log in on that same page to view my craft library. This is Sublimation Project S31. So basically there are 2 ways to find this project. You can click the sublimation/DTF button and you'll be taken down to that sublimation section where you can find S31. Or you can use the find function on your computer. That's Command F if you're on a Mac, Control F if you're on a PC, and then you can just search for S31 and you'll be taken right to that file. Once you find the file, there will be 3 links. The first link is the download. So you can click that link and it will automatically download a zip to your hard drive filled with the files that I have for you today. The second link is to the blog post for this video, and the third link is this video. I did want to use those paw prints on all of these projects this morning, but for some reason my large format printer is giving me issues today. So I'm only able to use my little 8.5 by 11 printer, which means that for some of these larger projects, I've gone ahead and just made my own little text file, and you can do something similar. These are also great projects for your pet photos. I don't have any pet photos for my projects today, but these are really great for showing off your pet. I'm going to go into what we're going to make here in just a moment, but let's talk about the few other things that you're going to need to make these projects. To start, you're going to need a way to clean your projects. You can use a lint roller on everything. On hard blanks, I prefer to use alcohol and a microfiber cloth. Lint roller works as well. You're also going to need some heat-resistant tape, some heat-resistant gloves, and some butcher paper. There's one project in particular where I found a weeding hook helpful, so if you are making little pet tags that I'm going to show you in just a second, weeding hook is helpful. Then you're going to need a heat press. 4 out of these 6 projects can be done on a traditional flat heat press or even with a Cricut Easy Press. Then there are these 2 projects up front where you are going to need either a very large tumbler press, my tumbler press is not this big, or you're going to need a sublimation oven. I couldn't fit my sublimation oven with all of the other things I have on my table, but it is sitting just out of frame here, and I will grab it when it's time to make these projects. All right, so what 6 projects is Corey having us make today? This is a lot of projects, guys, but I just really like my dog, so we're making a lot of things. In the overhead view here to start, I have 3 different types of tags. I'm only gonna make 1 today. They all function similarly. They do have sublimation coating on both sides. So you could put, a pattern or your pet's image maybe on the front, and then you could put your information on the back just in text, so that if you do lose your pet, somebody will be able to contact you. Then we have a pet collar. Mine is quite big because my dog is a moose, but they do make smaller versions as well, and you'll sublimate them in the same way. Then I have 2 different types of bandanas. So I actually really like this smaller bandana. I feel like this is actually a better way to go than the tie one I have, but they don't make this in like a giant dog size. So if you have a smaller pet, I really like this one. It has this little clasp here, and you thread this through and then around your pet's neck, so it functions more like a collar than something you have to tie. Then I also ordered these giant dog bandanas. It's absolutely huge here. If I unfold it, you can see how big it is, which is great because, like I said, my dog is enormous, so this will be really great for him. If you have a smaller dog, you'll probably want to go with something more like this, but if you have a big guy, this is probably a better option. Then I have a classic dog dish. This was actually really difficult to find, and unfortunately, it came from a company that is actually closing down. So this came from dietrans.com, and he's closing up shop. So for a limited time, you could probably find this there. I went ahead and linked to a similar version that I have found at Heat Press Nation. The problem is they only sell them in packs of 12, so I'm not sure if anybody wants to buy 12 dog dishes. Maybe if you're a seller, you could do that. I did link to one on Amazon. It doesn't have the best reviews, but I also feel like that could be because the time, temperature, and pressure settings that it has are terrible. So don't follow the ones on Amazon if you want to buy through that link. Follow the ones that I have here. It's just not nearly long enough in that listing. And then finally, I have this big water bottle, and you're like, what does this have to do with a dog? But look at this, guys. It's got a little bowl in the bottom. This is so clever. So you can fill this top bit with water for you or more water for your pup, and then you can fill the bottom part with some water for your dog, and you can take him on a walk and he will have something to drink. For the water bottle and the dog bowl, you will also need shrink wrap. These are the ones that we're doing in the oven, and the shrink wrap basically applies that pressure that you would get in a press that doesn't exist in the oven, so you do need the shrink wrap for this project. These are sort of specialty sized shrink wraps, so I went ahead and linked these down in the description so you can make sure you get the right size. All right, I moved the other projects out of the way, and we're gonna start with these pet tags. So to start, I said you could have that weeding hook, and that is because there is a plastic film on both sides here, and I just find a weeding hook is the easiest way to peel that up. Then I'm just going to use a little bit of alcohol to clean both sides. Yes, we just took the film off, but I don't know what's under there, and I want a really good transfer, so we're gonna clean both sides. For this project, I have printed out my little paw prints pretty small, and because I can sublimate both sides here, I am actually just gonna kind of roughly cut this in half so that I can use it twice. Then I'm going to tape down my charm. Because this is sort of a random pattern, I'm not really concerned about where everything goes. I'm just gonna set it here, give it one piece of tape right across this, and this is already ready to press. So I'm going to pull out my heat press here. I'm gonna start by putting a piece of butcher paper on the bottom. Then I'm going to actually flip this over so that my tag is on the bottom and my image is facing down, just like that. Then I'm going to add another sheet of butcher paper. And for this one, I'm gonna press it at 375 degrees for 60 seconds. All right, I'm going to pull out my design here. I'll take off that piece of butcher paper, flip this back over, and then I can pull this off, and you can see it has the tape on there, but it's sublimated beautifully. So this is still a little hot, so I'm gonna do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I have the side I did already, and then I'm gonna flip it over, put the side I haven't done on the other half of my image here. A little heat-resistant tape, just to seal it. I'm gonna reuse the butcher paper that I used before, but I am gonna avoid where I had my image the last time because I don't want this to actually re-sublimate on the front that we've already done. So I'm just gonna move it up a little bit, add another piece of butcher paper, and I'm gonna press it exactly the same at 375 degrees for 60 seconds. All right, we'll pull that off here. And again, very hot, but I am going to pull it off of here. Let me pull this tape off, and you can see that it's sublimated both sides. Then all we have to do is add our little ring, just like this, and we have a super cute little pet tag. Project number 2 is this collar. Now, when I first got this out of the bag, I could not figure out how to get this white part flat, but I did finally figure it out. So basically, you need to pull everything from the side with the metal all the way over to the other side here. So I am going to pull this little piece over, and then I'm just gonna keep opening this up, and you're gonna have to feed it through the other side as well, just all the way over, just like this. And that will leave you with a very flat pressing surface. For this one, we're gonna clean it with the lint roller. So we'll just run that lint roller over it a few times. And then you'll see that my image isn't quite wide enough to cover this entire leash. But thanks to the Pythagorean theorem, thank you high school geometry, we can fit it actually at a diagonal, basically at the hypotenuse of our piece of paper here. I'm just going to put a couple pieces of tape over this, just like this. This will help keep it from shifting. All right, I'm going to add my butcher paper to my heat press, just like this. And then I'm gonna flip this over so that my collar is underneath my piece of paper here with the piece of paper facing down. Now, you do not want to press any of the plastic parts of this leash. So I'm gonna pull everything over to the corner here and sort of use this corner. I mean, technically this will go across, but I don't know, I feel like just using the corner was a little bit easier for me. To keep this all in my press, I ended up putting another piece of tape. Let me grab that here. just up here in the corner to kind of tape it to the butcher paper, and that actually kept everything in place. You just want to make sure that you're not pressing any of these plastic pieces. One more piece of butcher paper. And just like with the first blank, we're gonna press this at 375 degrees for 60 seconds. All right, again, I have my heat resistant gloves on, and again, this is taped, so it's kind of a mess. I'll pull this out here. And once I remove the paper and the tape, you can see this turned out super cute. Now, if your dog is really big like mine, you may need to leave it at this larger size, but if you do need to make it smaller, you'll basically just pull this, I don't know what this is called, this piece back and sort of make it smaller depending on where you need it to be for your particular dog. All right, next up we have our small pet bandana. So I like this because it comes in two pieces. So you have this collar piece, but you don't have to worry about putting that in the heat press because it is separate from this piece. I will say I did try and iron this to get it a little flatter when I tried my test. This completely melted, so definitely do not put this under an iron or in a heat press. It's just going to have to, the wrinkles are just going to have to work their way out without the heat. So this one we are also going to lint roll to remove any sort of dust or debris or pet hair. I'm gonna flip it over here and tape it to my transfer here. Then I'm gonna pull out my heat press drawer. I'm going to add a piece of butcher paper. Again, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put another piece of butcher paper on top. This one is the same as the other ones we've done so far. I'm going to press it at 375 for 60 seconds. All right, we're gonna pull this out, and I will say that this one kind of curves, and I'm not really sure why. It flattens out just fine, but we're gonna peel it off the paper here, just like that. And again, this turned out really, really cute. To complete this one, you just need to unclip your little collar here, and then we're gonna slide one end inside, so it's in between the two pieces of the fabric here, just like this. Slide it all the way through. You have to go kind of rescue it on the other side, just like that. Then you can fold it up and clip it, and you have a super cute bandana for your pet. Next up, we have the really big bandana. And like I said, I wanted to use the larger 11 by 17 printing size, but for some reason my printer is just not working this morning. So instead, I just printed out my dog's name. You can see here that it is backwards. It's Gus. I added a couple paw prints. You could do something similar. Again, you could use your pet's picture or anything like that. But for this one, we're just going with his name. To start, again, we want to lint roll this whole thing. Just make sure there's nothing on it. You can see that this one is much thinner than the last one we did. The last one had two kind of thick layers. This is just basically a super thin polyester. So this one is very wrinkled from being folded, so I am going to pre-press it basically to iron it. All right, that is much better. For this one, I am gonna cut around his name a little bit just to make it easier to place. And then I'll center it here on my bandana. I think it's gonna go about here. I do kind of see the original center line here. You could fold it in half and to create, you know, exactly where your center line is, but we're gonna go right there. A little bit of heat resistant tape. Then I'm going to open my press and add that piece of butcher paper. For this one, we're just gonna put it straight in because we kind of taped it backwards than the ones we've been doing before. We want our image facing down and our blank below that. We're gonna add one more piece of butcher paper. And this one is the same as well, 375 for 60 seconds. All right, we have our image here. Take the butcher paper off. Let's get this laid out flat a little better. You can see that even just being folded for just that second here, it left that nice big wrinkle in the top, so I'll have to redo this again. Just like this. Now you can see that I do have a little bit of a mark around where I had my image. You can rip. I found that I could even see the ripping as well, which is why I just cut this time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw this back in my heat press between those two pieces of butcher paper to basically try and flatten out these press lines. All right, that is much better. I can't even see my pressing lines. I do have some other wrinkles that I'll need to iron out, but overall this one's done. All right, we have moved on to project number 5. This is this fun water bottle. I am using my J-Trans sublimation oven. If you don't know, You need an oven specifically for sublimation. You can't do this in your home oven, and that is because when the sublimation process occurs, it basically releases toxins while that ink is in its gas form. And so if you use a oven for sublimation, you can no longer use it for food. So whether or not you have something specifically for sublimation, like I have this oven here, or if you just have a small air fryer, you really need something separate to be able to do your sublimation crafting versus what you are using for your food. So this is another project where I wanted to use a design that wrapped all the way around, but this is much larger than a normal 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So instead, I have just gone and pulled this easily distracted by dogs image off my own shop. I will go ahead and link to it down in the description if you want to grab it. I am going to cut it down here so that it will fit on my water bottle. Now I'm going to remove the top of my water bottle just like this. And honestly, I think I might remove this bottom piece because I don't need it. If I was sublimating the whole thing with the design all the way around, I would leave it on, but this is just another piece that will have to heat up in my oven, and so because I don't necessarily need it for this design, I'm just going to leave it off. Then I'm going to grab my heat-resistant tape, and I'm going to tape my design to my tumbler here, just like this. Because this is just a singular design, I'm not gonna worry about carefully taping the top and the bottom because it's just white at the top and the bottom, and I'm not worried about it ghosting or making any sort of weird edges here because my design goes to about here, so it's very much on the flat part of my tumbler here. So I'm just gonna go with 2 pieces of tape. And you know what? I just realized I forgot to clean this. So I'm actually going to pull off this heat-resistant tape. We're gonna pull this off, and we are gonna clean it. This is really important when you're working with sublimation. You may think, oh, I'm just gonna skip that step, but if there is anything that is on your blank, it will sublimate and it will be ugly. So I'm gonna go back and I'm going to clean my blank properly. This is my advice to you, always clean your blank. Even if you've already got everything taped on, take it off, clean your blank. Once your blank has dried, you can then add your image again, just like this, and tape it along the long side here. Just like that, looks pretty straight to me. Then the next step is shrink wrap. So again, the shrink wrap is what is going to create the pressure element inside the oven. Now I know a lot of people like to pre-shrink this with a heat gun, but honestly, I'm gonna put it in this oven and within 1 second, it's all gonna be shrunk. So I don't waste my time with that part. If for some reason you wanna do that, please go ahead. If you find you get even better results, you do you. But for me, for almost all the projects that I do, I don't find that a heat gun is necessary. So inside my oven, you'll notice that I have my Nomex pad, and it's basically a piece of thick felt that is going to protect my blank from getting any sort of grill marks. It's not necessary, I've just found I like it. It's again not an inexpensive purchase, so it's not necessary. However, if you are getting grill marks, you may want to check it out and see if it's something for you. For this project, I have my oven set at 385 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to basically bake it for 6 minutes. I'm gonna bake it for 3, and then I'm actually gonna flip it and rotate it halfway through, and then I'm gonna bake it for another 3 minutes, and then we can see our results. All right, I have pulled this out of the oven. It's still very hot, but I like to remove this shrink wrap while the project is still really hot. Shrink wrap can be a pain, and it's even more of a pain when it's cool. So I highly recommend pulling off any shrink wrap while it's still pretty hot. All right, I need my nail to pull off the design here. I'm gonna not burn myself. I'm just pulling off our tape. And then I'm going to lift up our paper and all right, overall, I think this turned out really cute. I added that bowl back on the bottom and the top up here, and this is definitely me. I am always distracted by dogs. All right, we are on our final project. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know you are a true pet lover if you've made it this far. So our last project is this water dish. So I have this cute little Bon Appetit file I made. Again, this was one where I wanted to put the pattern all the way around, but couldn't get my big printer to work. So instead I made this Bon Appetit file. It matches the Gus bandana that I made earlier. If you want to learn how to make this type of file in Adobe Illustrator, I actually have a video on how to make this particular font look like this. So I will go ahead and link that in the description if you're interested in designing something that looks like this. I am going to cut off the bottom and top here just so I'm only working with one strip of paper. And this time I'm not going to forget to clean my blank here. So I'm gonna grab myself a little bit of alcohol. Whoa, splashing. And we're going to clean the outside of this dog dish, just like this. And then once the alcohol has evaporated, I am just going to place this on my bowl. Again, I'm not going to worry about taping the top and the bottom. I just wanna make sure it is straight on my bowl. It's a little hard to tell, if I'm being perfectly honest. We're just gonna go with it. Then I have my shrink wrap here. And you can see that this is kind of a long, wide piece of shrink wrap. So we're just gonna put it around like this. I think I will pull it tight and just put a little piece of tape here so that it's not absolutely enormous. And then same thing on the bottom so that I can actually set it in my oven. We're going to go ahead and just put a couple pieces of tape here just to make it a little easier to set it inside my oven. This is kind of a unwieldy blank. Just like this. Kind of inside too, because I want it to make sure that it gets the right sort of pressure all the way around. So just add some tape. For this one, we're baking it at 385 degrees for 10 minutes. Because this is a big, heavy ceramic blank, it needs that longer pressing time to actually heat up the ceramic enough to sublimate the image. Like with the water bottle, I am gonna rotate it halfway through our time. So at 5 minutes, I'm gonna reach into the oven with my heat-resistant gloves, and I'm just gonna give it a turn. All right, are you ready to see how this final project turned out? It made me a little nervous in the beginning because the shrink wrap didn't shrink quickly, but as you can see in this above view, it did end up shrinking perfectly here. So let's see, I'm actually gonna grab a pair of scissors. All right, I got my little scissors here, and this might help me take this whole thing off. Let's see, yeah. Just like that. And then we can go ahead and pull back our design here. Okay. So that didn't work very well at all, which I'm really disappointed about. I only have this one blank, so I didn't get a chance to test this one. You can see it just barely here, but overall, I'm really disappointed. I thought this was gonna be so cute. So honestly, I'm not really sure what went wrong here. This just goes to show you that, I mean, I do this all the time and I feel like I've got a good sense of how to do sublimation, and clearly this didn't turn out how I wanted. I have a few ideas. The first is that this probably needed even longer inside my oven. So it was a full 10 minutes in there, but at this point, I feel like we could go 15, maybe even 20 minutes, just to be able to get that image to show up. Another thing is that this has a particular coating on it from Orca Coatings. And I've had this conversation with a friend who said that he's not getting very good results from blanks with Orca Coatings. So maybe this is just the blank, and this type of coating is not as high quality as some of the other coatings on the market. So unfortunately, this one didn't work out, but I do have 5 other amazing projects that you can make for your pet. So once again, in the overhead, we have our little dog tag. We have 2 different types of bandanas, a really big bandana and this much smaller bandana. We have a dog collar, and then we have this fun water bottle, which has this removable bowl at the bottom so that you can give your pet some water when you're out on a hike or a walk. I really love this one. So while all of my projects didn't work, I am really happy with the 5 that did. If you have any questions about sublimating any of these pet products, I would be happy to answer those down in the comments. If you found this video inspiring, as always, I would appreciate a like. Follow my channel for more sublimation, cricut, and laser content. I'll see you next time.